Alright guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Cody Groom. This is a mod that I'm really excited about. This changes the whole game for the E9X. Like literally, it's a different car. Mods like these are interesting to me because they can go one of two ways. You can either say that, yes, this is the mod that you need for your car, or you can say it takes away from the character of this car. And that being said, today's mod is this digital cluster here. It's pretty damn good. All right. All right, so now this is just an unboxing of it, so bear with me because I'm gonna be learning with you guys as I open this. So let's talk about what this actually is. Now, what this is this a full replacement for the E9X cluster. Now you can see it's actually got a screen. Looking at this should be a pretty simple install. There's basically the standard, what looks like the standard E9X gauge cluster hood. And you can see this has the points right here, along with 2 points at the bottom that matches up with this. And I can tell that this just kind of clicks in along with these bottom parts. Do these actually click? It's cool. And then those two screws would go into the standard two screws that are there. So I can tell that that bracket sits there and holds into place. Pretty cool. Looks like it comes with a screen protector. So cables, let's see the back of this screen. Yep, it looks like this is to the standard one. Cool, so plugs in the back right there, and then that plugs in the standard one, it looks like. Okay, what else do we have in here? We have what looks like a USB cord to a USB port. Let's go ahead and start putting this together and see how it turns out. All right guys, I'm gonna breeze through this part pretty quick because all it is the two screws up top right here. Slide this out, unplug the back, and then we're good to go. There is a tiny bit of cutting, which I was kind of worried about as soon as I brought that out and saw the little template. But it's just the AC, and there's a little block off piece. So we'll have to just do that. And I think that's an easy rubber piece. If it ever comes to the point where I want to take that back out, I have that. Otherwise, it's a small piece. As long as I don't have to cut the dash or anything like that, I'm good, which I know I don't have to. So let's start this and move through it. Okay, so that back there, right there, is what we're gonna be cutting. So that is just to the AC line right here, and that's what's gonna be in the way of this. So we're gonna go ahead and cut that. Like I said, I wouldn't normally wanna cut something in my car, but this is such a minor thing, it's just a plastic piece. So it's in. Now let me actually show you guys this. So it basically goes in, slides in over the piece. It slides into the point, like in other words, right here, you have two parts that mount, right? Just like a piece of pipe that would go to your airway. And long story short, these two pieces mount. This actually slides, this metal piece slides into the point where they both connect. So the point where you'd have like a, typical piping, you'd have a point where it slides into each other. That's where these connect. It slides in pretty easy, and now it's in. So now we do the fun part, actually putting this thing back in. So let's do it. Here's one part that might be a deal breaker to some of you guys, but if you can look past this, I think this is pretty damn cool. So one thing that sucks is the screen's actually plugged in, everything is on, the car's not on. Once I start the car, we get the screen on. I'm sure you guys can kind of see in the side profile. I'll give you guys some cool shots right here so you can see it. All right, let's go drive around so I can actually get some time and see how it does. And for now, I'm pretty excited. This is pretty cool. Okay, so this is one of those things that has the potential to be amazing or ruin the car. And I gotta say right now, I'm pretty impressed with this thing. I mean, look at it. I know we're dealing with a time that we're gonna have a little bit of sun glare in the back, but to me, the gauge is actually fully visible at all times. And that's something I was kind of weary with the screen, because you never know, like, okay, am I gonna have too much glare that at all times that it's making it kind of hard to see? Now this camera that's up here is not accurate representation of how it looks to my eyes, because honestly, I haven't had a single issue seeing it the entire time. This right here is one of the many skins that are on here, and that is the coolest part to me, because that's why you modify your car, right? You modify your car because you want customization. Now, a couple things that are kind of bugging me as I'm driving this. Number one, this is probably the biggest thing that's annoying me, is there's no way to tell. I'm in manual mode right now on the E92, and you can hear that. I'm going purely off the RPMs, which is fine, but it's annoying to not be able to tell, unless I look at the gear lever down here, which one I'm in. And that's a little irritating. I also have no option to check my M button. So see, that's my indication. And back on. And so I have to kind of guess, which does suck, but you know, there's a lot of good to this that I wouldn't give up just because of that. So one sound that's actually different on here, which is interesting, is the turn signal. I don't know why the turn signal is different, but it is. So if I turn it on, when you have the needle menu, or anyone that you can see like a typical analog needles, it's either the refresh rate or just how the screen's responding, but I can tell it's a little behind. Like when we go, we're sitting at a red light right now, but when we actually go, you'll notice it's subtle, but it's enough to where I don't see myself ever using the analog menus, because to me, if I want analog, I'm gonna have analog gauge. You can just see like the shifts. They're just a tiny bit laggy, barely, but again, enough to notice. All right, so to actually dive into this thing, obviously I gotta park, I gotta stop and show you guys everything. One of the biggest problems for me that keeps it from being like this perfect OEM style piece is this right here. So right now the car is currently on, you can see the cluster on. If I go ahead and shut the car off, the cluster goes off. Now, that's kind of obvious, but the thing is there's no accessory mode. There's nothing in here to have this on when the car is not physically on. And that's a little bit of a problem. You know, it's a little bit of an issue here. So we can go ahead and start the car, I'll show you. Here's the startup screen right now. That being said, even though with that little quirk right there, this thing is absolutely amazing. And when I say that, like, there's two sides to this, right? To each person, they're gonna have a different opinion. Like, I have some people that are like, oh, put it back to analog, what are you doing? You're messing up an M3. And the other side of it is like, oh wow, that's so cool, it's so modern, and this and that. And that is a huge part of this right here. This is a very like controversial mod for this car, because it's such like a, you know, BMW M3s are starting to become like in the class of a Porsche. And I don't mean in the terms of driving, I mean in terms of who has them. Like, don't mess with them, don't modify them, don't do this. But I think something like this is super cool. And the coolest part about it is this is something you use all the time, you see all the time, and it completely changes the car. It changes the look and feel of the car. You can customize all these features, and really just like a whole new interior. Like, literally looking at this, every time I get them, like, just like, whoa. I forget that it's here, and it takes me by surprise. So I'm someone that loves tech. I love customizing stuff. I love the idea of taking something and just changing it into something else, and that's exactly what this does. So if you're a fan of that, you're gonna love this thing. Now, the cool part about this is when you start going through this thing, there are just skin after skin. But actually, hold on. So I can actually adjust all the theme with the blinker right here, with the actual little BC button. So I'm gonna use that, it's gonna pull up the menu, and then from there, I can really change the appearance of the theme. So right here, I can show you guys right now. This is the default one I have on. And see, you can go right here, all the different ones. And this is what's pretty amazing, is that they've spent the time to really make this a like completely cohesive theme. And what I mean by that, it doesn't feel like it's like thrown together. I was kind of expecting something like this to kind of have a feel of maybe something like the CarPlay that you would see, you know, the Android CarPlay, where it had a lot of little issues and stuff that makes it not functional. Don't get me wrong, there's still little issues, but this thing is just like, it's really well done. Here's how you change the themes, like I mentioned, and we start going through them. It's just cool how you can preview them, and it does hold your settings, which I really enjoyed. I was kind of worried as I switched through themes that it would change my settings. And what I mean by that is stock, this doesn't have the shift lights on, it doesn't have the, you know, the RPMs all the way up to 9,000 that you'd want for this car. It only goes up to 7, which would obviously cause an issue, you know, and so it holds those settings as I switch. It you know, specific settings I have on as far as, you know, do I want to see oil temp, do I want to see coolant temp, whatever it is. Speaking of that, you can see coolant temp on here, which is cool. Not something you can normally check. There are a lot of themes in here that I don't necessarily think are that great. I don't really dig any of these classic ones or these modern green, modern orange. I just kind of feel like they lack a little bit of like something to make it a digital theme, a digital tack, right? If I'm gonna want a digital tack, I kind of want it to actually be fully digital. That being said, I know a lot of you guys like, you know, a lot of people have asked me, oh, well, how do the needles react on the normal one or the classic one? And that is something that I actually have a huge issue with. I knew that was going to be a problem going into this, and I'm just kind of jumping through all these things for you guys at the same time. But one of the biggest issues with the classic themes and having a needle is that you're going to notice the response difference compared to an analog. So let me put this on a classic theme right here. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the classic. This is called the Classic Pristine. So it's white gauges. I'm going to hold down the BC button right here. I should know what this button's called, but I don't, because I just know it jumps through the menu. And like I said, I should know what it's called, but I don't. So I'm going to wait right now. The menu's going to take a second, and you're going to see it go away. So right here, it starts to count down to like, you know, 5, or it starts at 4, 3, 2, 1, and then now the menu will turn off. That's why. Okay. So this thing is something cool. Real quick, I'm going to jump back to what I was showing you. When we're inside right now, and the car's detecting that I need the headlights on, so that's why it went to that theme. Versus if I turn off the lights, it's going to go back to that theme I just selected. So it's really cool. You can actually have a day and a nighttime theme. Anyway, back to the needles. So right now, if I put it in neutral and we go ahead and rev it, you can see it's not bad. I actually don't think it's unusable. Like, it's not something that I would be like, man, this is horrible. It's just a noticeable delay when you're used to something, right? If you're used to having your gauges react a certain way, you're gonna notice this reacts different. But this is pretty damn cool. It's cool to have the shift lights over the top, so you can see where they're at right now, around, what is it, 3250 to 5750. And so that's something that's all adjustable. And you can really dial that into wherever you want the shift lights, which is cool. Something you can't do on the stock thing here is, you know, literally adjust that. So if you want it to shift at a certain point because you've changed like the power band of this car and you know that you want it to shift here, you can set it to that. Not in terms of making the car actually shift there, but you can set it to where it notifies you with that RPM. So again, just kind of seeing the needles here, you know, we can get a good idea of, you know, how that looks. But that's not really my favorite theme. I actually really like, if I go down to this right here, so back through the menu's really responsive, and that's something I enjoy. Like, it's not a hassle to use. That's one thing, anytime that you have something digital aftermarket like this, I'm always worried about the user interface. How does it react, and is it annoying to use? Does it literally just bug me even though it looks cool? And this doesn't. I think there's so many good parts. So let's jump down here to these themes, and this is where it starts to see the potential. Now this is something they can change over time, and you can purchase more, which is cool. This is called Bright Austin, and then we basically have a bunch of colors that preview through this. So you can see like these kind of the whole thing changes colors, which is cool. Then we go down to Fierce right here. This is my favorite one. Fierce Austin is actually, and Fierce Blaze are my favorite. So here's Fierce Austin right here, and then here's Fierce Blaze. I'm gonna go ahead and set that back. I'm gonna hold the button, it's gonna select it, and then I'm just gonna wait for the menu to go away. Now, there is an actual remote that I can add to this, but I liked it to just be OEM and clean. There'll be a remote that kind of hang down. It is very easy to hide. So once you actually pick a theme, it's really cool because there is just a number of things that you can modify in here. And this is where it really is really cool because you can dial it into your exact appearance of what you want. you can change everything from the brightness. You can change, you know, indicators right here and go into, you know, you could have your typical readout in the center on your classic gauge, you know, the typical, what you would see on, you know, the little front center, the tiny square screen. You can change like the speed and RPM readouts, so you can literally change like the actual color. Does it show you in a digital form on the screen? Literally everything. I can go in here and actually change. I have an optional gauge I can add. This is the premium edition, so it includes everything. And it's pretty damn cool. I can change the consumption right here, coolant temp, oil temp, battery voltage, and those will all pop up as gauges on the screen. I think the only critique I have when it comes to customizing this is I wish there was a way to adjust specifically where things went. And like, in other words, can I put that to the left side? Can I move that up? Can I move that down? But I can see that starting to kind of break the software. Having these limitations in the software, I can see just makes it to where they can ensure that everything's going to function the right way. Because I can see stuff starts being on top of each other. Well, how does that react? How does it react when this moves too far over the left? Stuff like that. So here's what I was talking about. This is the shift indicator. And right here, I can set the minimum value right here. So you can see if I go down here, I have it at 5,500 as the minimum. And then, let's see, let's go back. Maximum we'll go to is at 8,000. So it'll give me shift lights from 5,500 to 8,000. It's cool because you can even adjust, once you go through here, you can actually even adjust to the point of where you want the red lights to be and how many red lights. So in other words, right now I have it set to 1 green, 4 yellow, and 3 red. And so you can change it. So essentially you could have that at 9,000 and then have red lights, you know, 3 lights down so that it would be at 8,500 or 8,250, whatever your red line is. I think that's really cool. You know, if we go in here too, there's just all kinds of stuff. There's, again, it switches between night mode and this automatically. You can do it based on time or you can do it based on your headlights. I like it based on the headlights because it kind of switches and it all blends together. You can also decide if you want like the M logo on the screen. I have the M logo currently on the screen. You can click right here and decide that, you know, you want it on there or you don't, which is really cool. When it comes to, there's also, this is pretty crazy right here. You can actually switch the whole race skin. Now, this is interesting, so it completely gives it a different look. And I'm not sure how I directly feel about this, but it's basically to give you like a more just focused thing. You see your RPMs, you see your speed, and that's all you see. You see you know, your gas tank, miles per gallon. I'm not sure why that's there on this, but it is. And it's a very simplified screen. It almost reminds me of like S2000, and I know they do S2000 versions of this as well, so maybe that's what this is from. It's cool. It's a little, it's not my favorite, but it's cool to have it on there. And so again, I can go through here, go back to the menu. I think I missed it at the top. Whoops. And then I'm back to my thing, back to my normal. Again, showing you guys if I flip right now, I'm gonna flip the headlights back to auto. They're gonna turn on, and you can see it goes to my default skin at night. So this is the coolest part, right? It's all in the customization for you guys. And to me, that's something I enjoy. Now, will I keep this long term? I don't know. I think that really comes into play of like, this is not a mod that you can't go back, right? This isn't irreversible. This isn't something you're cutting a bunch of wires. This is literally plug and play. And to me, that is the coolest part, hands down, is that there's not a lot of modification to it. You do have to do one little thing, and I talked about that earlier, but you literally plug it in. You plug it in and this thing starts, it reads from your OEM plugs. There's no wire cutting, nothing, and it's there. So as soon as I want to go back to my normal one, all I literally do is unscrew 2 bolts, pull the whole thing out, unplug it, plug the old one back in, put it back in, and I'm done. So super simple, easy, and there's not much bad to say about this, right? So I have 3 things that I've noticed since I've been using this that are a bit of an issue for the M cars. And number 1 is I'm in neutral right now. My foot's on the brake. I can't tell when I'm in drive. So if I were to put this in drive right now, there you go, it's in drive, nothing shows on the screen. Go back to neutral. My only way of knowing that is by the screen, which does show a couple little things, but it doesn't show drive. It doesn't show on a manual shift mode. It doesn't show MDM, none of that stuff. So my only way is to look down at the gear lever and know that. Sucks, but it's not, to me, it's not a deal breaker for me not wanting to run this tack. But it is something I'm kind of sad about. I'm like, damn it, like this is so good. It's just missing that last little thing right there. I've also noticed my gas reading is a little off. Now this is a bit more of a big deal, right? If my gas reading is off, you know, right now it says I have 3/4 of a tank, and I don't know if that's true or not, but I know it's close. So I don't know if it's reading gas different. And the last thing is that I noticed that it does mess with some of my system settings. And what I mean by that is this was designed, I don't know exactly where the company is, but I know they're not in the United States. And so they're not using miles per hour. And I did notice like a couple times when I switched things, it didn't switch it system wide and then it switched it in here. Or it would do the opposite. It would switch it in the system, but not in here. And it would just go back and forth. Like even, I just reset my date in my car because I noticed it was set to the opposite. So in the United States, if you're not in the United States, you know, we read the date as the month, day, year. It was set to day, month, year, something like that. And it was also set to the time format of 24 hours instead of 12 hours. And so those little things like are just little quirks. But overall, I'm really impressed because software is the hardest thing to integrate in the car and not have it feel out of place, not have it feel like it just is annoying, and you know, this doesn't. So we'll see long term how I keep it in, but for now, man, I have to say this is an excellent piece of tech added to the E9X.
So as far as pricing goes, they basically have 3 editions. They have the basic edition, the standard edition, and the premium edition. The basic edition does not include the sport designs and only comes with 4 default themes. You guys can see on screen what example I showed you guys was the premium. This is where you really have to decide if it's worth it for you. The premium is currently $1,900. Now, you can still get by with the standard, but it's missing a lot of those key features that I feel like makes this a great tech. The standard is still $1,200.
Anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button. If you got some question or something to say about this, leave me a comment below. I'm interested in your guys' feedback. I wanna know what you guys think. Analog, digital, where do you stand in this whole thing? But anyways, guys, I'll catch you next time. Later.